Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi kids, welcome back again into science. Today in the term 2, we learn about the classifying plants. Now, we remind ourselves about the parts of plants. Look, this is the most beautiful parts of the plants. It's usually colorful and very attractive. We call it flower. And then the second part is stem. This is what connected upper part of the plants with the under part of the plants. We call it stem. And then we move into the third. This is the most important parts of the plant that have chlorophyll, the green things that is really amazing. It can produce food for plants and also produce oxygen. So leaf is a part of plant that function as a kitchen. And then last but not least is the roots. Roots is kind like hair that grow under the soils that function to find for minerals and water that needs our plants to support their life. So now, why do we need to classify plants? Why? Because there are many different kinds of plants around us. Even the scientists already mentioned that thousands of different kind plants all over the world. So in order to make us easy to learn, we need to put them into group or to classify, to put them into a group with the same common similarity. And then plants, where we can find plants? We can find plants in many places. On the ground, on the buildings, on plants, on rock, or even in the water. In the sea, in lake, in the rocks, in a high mountain, almost every part of the earth we have plants on it. Now, how do we classify plants? We find this similarity between. The first, we will learn about how to classify plants based on the stem they have. So based on the stem they have, we classify plants into two. It is woody stems and then non-woody stems. Yay, we already learned about this. It's just short, take a look. Woody stems such as tree, shrubs, and woody vine. If the non-woody stem, example is grasses, herbs, and non-woody vines. Now let's take a look one by one. This is the example of plants with the woody stems. What is stem? Woody stem is thick and covered with bark. Pay attention in this. If it's already had the stem is thick and covered with bark, we call it trunk. And then now, the first example of the woody stem plants, it is tree. What is the character of tree? The tree is at least 6 meters tall. They have thick and woody stem called trunk. And this is the example of tree. The distinct one is the baobab trees. The baobab trees grow very high and very big. Sorry, it moved backwards. And then after tree, the plant with the woody stem number 2 is shrubs. What is shrubs? Example like this, rose and hibiscus. So the shrub has a woody stem and are less than 6 meters tall. Their branches grow close to the ground. Now let's take a look. The third example of the woody stem plants are woody vines. Look, so this is the woody stems, the woody vines. Some vines have long woody stems, but they cannot grow by themselves. They need support. They need to grow on other objects such as walls, fences, or support. Now, after the plants with the woody stems, now let's move into the plants with the non-woody stem. The example is grasses like rice plants, barley plant, wheat plant, grass. It is easy, we find it on the yard, on the court, or people also planting like a farmer plants this. This is a type of grasses. Grasses are much smaller than trees. They have non-woody stem. Long and narrow leaves grow from the stem. This is the grasses. And now the plant with non-woody stems number 2 is herbs. Like grasses, herbs do not have woody stems. The herbs only range for a few centimeters about until 1 meter length, such as the buttercup plants and also the Irish plant. That is the example of the herbs. And the third example of the non-woody stem is non-woody vines. Because some vines have long, fleshy, and non-woody stems. This is the example of morning glory flowers. Then the classification of plants. Number 2, if we want to divide plants based on the flower production, we divide into 2, flowering and non-flowering. The flowering include bougainville, sunflower, ixora, orchid, tulip, etc. And the non-flowering plant, it is the fern and moss. So let's take a look. So why we call the flowering plants? Because the plant that produce flower, we call flowering plants, such as grasses, or bougainville, ixora, orchid, rose. You can name all the flowering plants, and that's the example of the flowering plants. And then the non-flowering plants, such as this is a plant that not produce flowers, and we call it non-flowering plants, such as the birdnest fern, the staghorn fern, the staghorn fern, birdnest fern, staghorn fern, moses, and monarch fern. That's the example of non-flowering plants. Now, how when we classify plants based on let's rewind a bit. So how do we classify plant based on the stem? We divide into 2. What are they? Woody stems and non-woody stems. Remember? And this is the example already. And then the second classification we do today is based on the flower production. So based on the flower production, we divide plants into 2, flowering plants and non-flowering plants. And this is the example. Okay, thank you very much for joining. Read closely and then keep reading and practice. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.